Good afternoon and welcome. This is Open Door Live, and we have two very special guests with us today. We just concluded a broadcast on AM 1490 WERE with Professor James Small, and one of the reasons he was there was to let you know about a current project that is in progress. It's the Sanaa Lodge Hotel Development Fund. There is an institution right there on the west coast of Africa near Cape Coast. And it's a nice facility. It needs some development, and we need your help in bringing it up to where it needs to be in order to be the resource that it can be to those of us who are here in the diaspora and also to those who are also on the continent of Africa. So I'm really excited to have him as a guest. Professor Small dropped some serious knowledge on us this morning. So if you didn't get enough then, I am praying and hoping, and I have faith, I have Imani, that you will get something out of this conversation. I also have a young brother. His name is T'Challa Bangoura, and he is part of the Kofi Piesie research team. He's a Chicago native with a primary focus on rehabilitating the African-American mind via language and music. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm sure in the comments that Professor Small has to offer us today, there will be some parallel lines, there will be some similarities, some intersectionality in the conversation that we have. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring on Professor Small and just let you know up front, and I'm just reading from his biography for those who don't know. He's a scholar, activist, dynamic speaker, organizational consultant, CEO of the Sanaa Lodge Enterprise Ghana Limited. He is in the African American management company that's related to that enterprise, and a whole bunch of other things. He's a priest of O.A.A.U, Babalorisha, Ifa Tradition, and he's a past president of the Eastern region of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization. That's a mouthful, and there's so much more that we could share, but I wanted to bring him on right now so that you can see his face and welcome him to the broadcast. Professor Small, welcome to Open Door Live.
Thank you so much, my brother. We had fun on the radio, and I'm going to be here sitting and learning from my younger brother. We're going to have fun on this show now. And the people of Cleveland, I always loved Cleveland. So I'm happy to be there.
Yeah. Well, I'm remembering one of the last times you were here, we actually had lunch at the Nile Valley restaurant over there on Lee Road, and it was quite a memorable occasion. When people think about you and other of our scholars, sometimes there's a certain level of intimidation. It's like, this man has all this knowledge. How can I be, in the same room with him, having a conversation with him? But I just want to commend you for being so accessible. You said in the pre-interview that your phone number is up on the internet. People can reach out to you and connect with you and bring whatever concerns that they might have. So I'm really happy to be able to assist you with fundraising for this very important effort. I've been to Cape Coast a few times. I had a delicious meal in the restaurant when I was there. And I know the brother that prepared the meal has transitioned, but I'm sure that he's left someone very capable in his stead. So with that, welcome to the show. And I also like to welcome our brother, T'Challa Bangoura. T'Challa was gracious enough to join me this morning in this inaugural program of Open Door Live. And he was willing to be a guest and to share his wisdom and knowledge. And hopefully between the three of us, the folks who are watching on YouTube and on Facebook will also be able to glean something extremely important. So with that, Professor Small, why don't we start with you sharing the importance of the Sanaa Lodge and what it means to us as Africans in the diaspora, and a little background about how it began, how it was birthed.
Yes, sir. Brother Vince, but first I want to tell Brother T'Challa, we may be the two older guys, T'Challa, but all of our literature says, and the babes should lead them. So we're here to really be taught by you today, so don't be intimidated by our ages and stuff. Do what you come to do, okay?
Yes, sir.
So, yes, we come to the Sanaa Lodge, which is the most beautiful complex. It's located in Cape Coast in the suburbs of O.A.A.U. 10 minutes walk from Cape Coast University, 1 block from the Atlantic Ocean, midway between the Elmina slave dungeon and the Cape Coast slave dungeon. It's in a suburban neighborhood surrounded by schools and universities and college campuses and people who are working class people's homes. We have 30-room complex. We are a villa. We have a wall around us. We have our own parking facilities. We have a gym. We have a conference center that can hold 1, 2, 3, 400 people total, or 500 people total. It's a 4-room complex, one holding 175, 150, 100. We have a gym. We have a pool. We have a pool bar and a fantastic patio setup. And we have a cocktail lounge and a full course. We have, and the whole concept of the Sanaa Lodge, I'm the CEO, but I'm not alone. One of my partners is Sister Martha Leah Williams, who's from the Hebrew Israelite community. The other partner is Dr. Leonard Jeffries, whom everyone knows. My other partner is Dr. Bill Jones, medical doctor from our community in Long Island, and Cedric Anguis, who's our accountant, and we have more. But 5 of us put the bulk of the money. The complex cost us $1 million to purchase, and then we opened it out to the community because we wanted it to be a Pan-African project. So some people bought in at $1,000, $500, $2,000, etc. And so the idea was for us not to be moving on that selfish I, me thing, but that we'd be moving on a collective African community concept based on communal, collective, cooperative. And we pulled it off. We raised $1 million in 2.5 years to buy it. No banks would loan us any money on either side. So this is bought out of our pockets. And we were able to do it. So we don't have a mortgage on the facility. We don't owe any banks, anything. The only bills we have is the electric company and the water company, and what it's going to take for us to upgrade and to raise the facility, with new furnishing. We need new air conditioners. We need to retool the kitchen. We need to repaint the entire facility, which has to be done every couple of years because you're right on the Atlantic Ocean, to make it presentable. And we want it to be the place that bridges African Americans and Africans on the continent. We want it to be the place that is a refuge for those African Americans who go and fall in hard times and need a place that can give them sanctuary until we can get them back home. We want it to be a place where the African population, who are 99% of the employees, can help to interface culturally and teach the African American and African Caribbean population how to acculturate back into Africa, And we have some other ideas of extended learning, trying to hook up with the traditional Black universities here in America, and with Cape Coast University there in the Cape Coast region of Ghana, and other colleges around that vicinity. So we have it's more than a hotel. When you walk in, you're walking into a museum. We have a reading room. So you're walking to where you can go to a library and read Cheikh Anta Diop, John Henry Clark, Shashi McIntyre, or you can go sit at the bar and have a glass of Kofi and enjoy yourself. So that's what the Sanaa Lodge is in a nutshell. It is the place that the actual name Sanaa means the place of wealth. But the esoteric name means the place from which you do not depart until the task is complete. And so to us, it's a spiritual phenomenon. It's a spiritual commitment and journey to build this institution and leave it for the next generation. And so any help that you can give us is important. It's not about me. I don't own it. I'm only one of the owners. I was given the burden of being the CEO because I go to Africa all the time, like Benz can tell you. But it hasn't been a burden. It has been a beautiful journey. We've owned it for 15 years. We got hit very hard, of course, with the Ebola a few years back. And as we were coming back, then the COVID, and we had to close. So we're struggling to raise this fund so we can reinvigorate ourselves and represent ourselves as a hospitality institute second to none in that region.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the historical and cultural significance of that place on Earth, and follow up with the epiphany or the realization about what happened last year, because 2019 was the year of return.
Uh-huh.
And in that year, over 1 million of us returned to the continent of Africa, many of us going to Cape Coast and other parts of Ghana to experience that pilgrimage. And in the year that followed, we had something called a pandemic with a virus that literally shut down traffic to and fro. Mm-hmm. So there's been an urgent need for us to reconnect. And then we've had some interference with that. And now we're getting to a place where we're considering going back, but the momentum has slowed significantly. Do you see the irony, or I guess just the absurdity of something like this happening to kind of prevent us or to slow our interest in reconnecting with our roots and our ancestors?
Before I get to your question, let me do a little history. I love the concept of the year of return, and it did get good media, but we have been returning since the founding of Sierra Leone. We founded Sierra Leone. We founded Liberia. We have always been returning to Africa. This is not a new thing. And Ghana alone, prior to last year, have over, I think, somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 African Americans who have made it their residence. So the year of return was a celebration of the return, but the return has been going on in Kenya, it's been going on in Tanzania, it's been going on in Uganda, it's been going on in Senegal, it's been going on in Sierra Leone, it's been going on in Liberia. And Ghana happens to be the nation that has opened the doors in a way no other government has opened it. And it didn't start with this new president. This started with John Jerry Rawlings, God bless his beautiful Black African soul. And it was carried on, thank God, by this new president into the year of return. And now we come to the question, do I think there is something that's trying to interfere with that? I say
intentionality. Intentionality, yeah. Yes.
I don't think so. I mean, the West has been, remember, under Jimmy Carter as president, the big new Brzezinski put out a white paper, which is supposed to be the highest level of instruction to the foreign services, saying that every and anything had to be done to keep the African American and the African from uniting economically, politically, and culturally. This is the foreign policy of the United States of America, its embassies, its intelligence apparatus. But we've never let that stop us. And we won't let that stop us now. You know, that is their policy. If they had any kind of common sense, they would say, let's partner with the African American so we can have the upper hand in partnering with Africa. But stupidity in politics and racism don't let them. You've got nearly 80 million Black people in your country. You say you got 40 million, but you say you didn't count half of that, okay, in your census. So we can safely say we're between 70 and 80 million people, and you would rather practice your vile, sick, racist, inferiority complex response on trying to keep us down, rather than using the fact that you have one of the largest African population out of the continent of Africa in a European state to build your special relationship to Africa, where the Chinese wouldn't be no competition with you if you came the right way, in the right manner, working with the African American as an African in America, to be the bridge back to Africa, to take the technology and the things we need, and you get the natural resources you need, and we're able to develop the institutions and that we need from our raw materials before we let it go out of the country, we could all be happy. But your inferior marginalization in your own mind as a human being, I'm talking to white America now, won't allow you to do that. And so we, who have always been returning back home, Martin Delaney returned home, Garvey told us to return home, Booker T. Washington returned home. A lot of people don't know Booker was a hell of a Pan-Africanist. But the white man made us turn from Booker because Booker said, do for self with the hands that you have, master the technology of your day and use it to build what you got. But they didn't want us to do that because Malcolm X called what Booker was talking about Black nationalism. So no, I think there are forces that's doing everything to stop us. But I think what nature has presented as COVID has given us more advantage than it has given us, the African man, a disadvantage. Because I think what COVID did is maybe stop the plans that our detractors had in place for us. What COVID did was shut his world down. Most of Africa is functioning pretty well. Remember, they said with the COVID, Africa is going to be decimated. They don't have the infrastructure. Well, now they're trying to whisper, why isn't that happening? Why is most African nations is only minimally experiencing this pandemic? And so I believe, as our ancestors have taught, that the divine is the totality of everything, cosmology, ecology. And I think if anything just occurred, I think God just stepped in on our behalf. I think the divine stepped in on our behalf.
That's a beautiful sentiment, and it gives us a certain sense of hope in that, you know, there are more than one way to look at a situation. You know, when we look back at what happened in the past year, so many people, they suffered a certain level of angst and depression because they felt like they were being isolated and being set apart from others and so forth and so on. But then there were so many blessings that came out of it. I mean, just this alone. I mean, a year ago, if you'd have told me that I'd have been directing a television show with my computer from my living room, I would have laughed, you know. But now here we are. We've been able to leverage technology in ways that we haven't done before. And, you know, Africa is not behind when it comes to technology because the brilliant minds that we have on the continent are developing things to take us into the next century right now. So it's all about the narrative. And with that being said, I wanted to expand on the conversation that we were having on the radio show about what happened in Washington last week. I have my own views about it, but I think you saw it from a different perspective and from a different angle. And I'm really curious to have you unpack what happened and what it means to us, as well as what it means to those who enemize us.
Right. I think what happened, you had a bunch of ignorant people from an ignorant family, a bunch of gangster brutes who's using to have their way with their money, really thought they could overthrow a government. And all they had to do is kill a few people in Congress, maybe kill the vice president, control that building, that through fear and intimidation, they could reverse the count on that election. I think they stupidly really, you've got a minimalist mind. He's not running the country. That's a myth. No presidents run this country. That's an illusion. He's a manager. But this manager confused his role and thought he really was in charge of something. And so he sent his little backwards, inferior, hateful failures. Most of those men that you saw there are people who failed at what they were doing. They failed at being soldiers. They failed at being policemen. They failed at being businessmen. They were failures, and they want to blame somebody else for their failures. I was asked, if you enslaved me, what the hell are you angry at me about? I should be angry as hell at you. But these are the failures who feel inferior. We always try to pin inferiority on Black people. The most inferior population in this country is the working class white people. And they kept in that inferiority place by the white elite so that they can use them as their minions, as we saw in Washington. But the attack on that Capitol, the point I wanted to make was that the policemen, white, Black, male, female, especially the DC Metro, who was wearing the yellow or green vest, who came to aid the Capitol Police. I've never seen such heroics in quite some time. And I think that those men and women should be praised at a higher level than they're being praised. They should be honored in media in a way they're not. And I think they're being marginalized to a great degree because most of them are Black. Most of the Capitol policemen, the rank and file, I think they did their duty. Otherwise, it would have been much more catastrophic. I think the conspirators and the traitors were the leadership of those police organizations in the Capitol, and they need to be brought out, called out, tried, and convicted and thrown in the penitentiary where they belong. One thing I tell Black people, we made a big mistake in the 60s, and I didn't just start saying this, I said it in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. If you're gonna have policemen, then you be the policeman. It is stupid for you to say, I don't want to be a pig. Then who's going to be that? I don't want to be the policeman. Who's going to police your community? You can't leave your community to be policed by someone else. They complain when he crushes your head in or put a bullet in it because he hates you, because he hates himself. And so Black people need to take a look at the necessity for policemen anywhere in the world, every community in the world, every African city you've ever been to, they got policemen. If they're going to be policemen in the Black community in America, then Black men and women need to step up. Black institutions need to step up and do the training for these civil service tests so our kids can pass them. Let us be the Black policemen. Let us be the Black firemen. Let us be the EMS. It is ridiculous what we're allowing. And we get into this negative thing of being anti-police instead of anti the elements who use police against us. And the way to stop all of that, you become the police and police your own community.
You know, as I was looking back on it, and I was intentional about not getting absorbed into all the backstories and watching all the film and video, because I think to a certain extent, one of the primary purposes of what happened was to serve as a distraction and a misdirection, because there are other things that are happening right now that people are not aware of and they need to be aware of. So I have a few theories about that, but I'm going to withhold my opinion and bring our young person in.
Yeah, I'm just about to hear young blood tell us what he's seen.
Yeah, I want to get it from the young folks. So what is your perception of what happened in Washington last week, T'Challa?
Well, first of all, peace to the audience and peace to the Boppers on the panel. It's a great honor to be on the show and to be able to exchange African intellect in true African fashion. To answer your question, being from my generation as a millennial, everything we see on the screen is a program.
Mm-hmm.
This is not to be pseudo, to try to, tie in things that don't have anything to do with the conversation. But if you really think about it, this show that we're on now is what? A program. A very positive program. And anytime you see something happen on the screen, that is putting on a show. Speaking from a performer, I also do performance arts. Anytime you get in front of the village and you behave in a certain manner, that is a presentation. That is a demonstration. That is what a march is. That is what we did with Dr. King, and that is what we've been doing. We've been demonstrating, fighting back, fighting against this this idea of racism and white supremacy. The fact that we're speaking English lets you know what's going on. So Yeah, I definitely saw it as a show. I mean, you can just look at it. You can look at it and see how. I mean, these people were climbing the walls like Spider-Man. I mean, are you serious? Like seriously, you and it's nothing new. Certainly not nothing new for the Bibles on the panel, and probably most of the audience that will view this. In my generation, we have this disconnect where everything that happens in our day, we freak out. Oh my goodness, they stormed the Capitol, or we got this disease, we got to wear face masks, and now I lost my job. Be easy, because our people have been through worse. Um, it was a time where we couldn't sit and even talk this long and this calmly without some whips on our backs. One of us would have been strung up to a horse. The other one probably wouldn't have got food that night. Like it's all of these things go in my head when I think about, you know, what I saw last week and what I've been seeing all my life. And when I research what I've seen in you all's lifetime, what you went through to get us to where we are, because if it wasn't for your generation, going through the struggles and persevering, like you say, Baba Smalls, just you deciding to stand up and be the revolutionary, be the person to echo the voice of the Malcolm X's and the Booker T. Washingtons and the likes, to where my generation will have someone to look to, you know what I mean, to learn from. Not everybody grows up reading Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, and know who those people are. And so we look to those who decided to be the people, to be the change, instead of sitting around and complaining about it.
Okay, so I just want to bring this information into context and let Professor Small know about what you brothers are doing. They have done 3 books. I have 2 of them here right with me right now. One is called Spears of the Mossi, a historical survey of the minds of African warrior scholars, Volume 1. Second one is called From Spears to Pens, a historical survey of the minds of African warrior scholars, Volume 2. And then there's another one, it's Volume 3, and it is Spiritual Combat, again, a historical survey of the minds of African warrior scholars. And when we interface with folks on your level, Professor Small, sometimes we kind of get disenchanted or disillusioned because we see you as the standard bearer, and we know that there aren't others who are following in your footsteps. But I want to assure you that there are young people in our midst who are taking African-centered scholarship seriously, and they are contributing to publications like this so that we can continue the work of those who came before us, such as Chancellor Williams, such as Dr. Ben, such as John Henrik Clark, and esteemed scholars such as yourself. So I just wanted to connect you. I'm so happy that you were able to join us and that T'Challa could come in and bring his perspective. And I happen to agree with him. I mean, as I'm seeing people rappelling up walls and I'm seeing footage of someone just strategically placed to follow this brother who, his sense of compassion for humanity would not allow him to use that 9mm weapon to mow folks down. If it had been the other way around, there would have been acceptance of that, because we've been accepting that from police officers since they were overseers back in the day, So I really think, and I'm probably going a little bit farther than I wanted to go with this commentary, but I really think that there was something intentional about sharing those images with a worldwide audience on Wednesday and creating a brand of terrorism that exists in this country that has existed for a long time. And we can call it all kinds of things, but let's call it what it is. It's domestic terrorism. And there were people who were traumatized by what they saw last week, and they can't get that image out of their minds. It's the program that you spoke about, T'Challa. That's exactly what it is. It's a mass media feeding frenzy that happened last week. and we're still talking about it. And that gives you a clue as to the importance of it as a tool of misdirection. Did you have any comments that you wanted to offer, Professor Small?
Yes, sir. All that you say is true. Well, the first, this generation is the greatest generation we ever produced, and they better damn be, because we fought hard enough to give them the tools they need to be the best generation we've ever produced. And I know for a fact that they are. One of the differences, white media no longer talk about this generation like they talked about ours, because they realized that was a mistake, that they gave us, promotion and propaganda that we couldn't give ourselves. But this generation is the most highly trained, the most highly educated, the most African-centered we've ever produced. So I have no problem in understanding that. That's why I'm still at my age out here, keep trying to do what I'm doing. But coming back to the Wednesday, yes, it needs to be talked about, because that place is the symbol of the capital. We know there's no democracy in America, at least not for us. And for most people, most whites are not profiting from no democracy. They're getting privileges because of their lack of color, but they're not profiting from an institutional format. The stock market hasn't done bad since this COVID thing started. So they weren't losing any money. They were making money, okay? But what I was pointing out about the police, that was just one element that no one could have planned. Those men and women who came out there and had to fight on that line. The point I was making is that Black people need to move away from their own self-imposed stereotypes of not wanting to be the police. That's just ridiculous. Who's going to be policing in your community? Your enemy? And so I was making the point of the bravery of those young men and women, because that's what police should do if they're doing their job. And that in our communities, we need to change our attitudes, because somebody understands, if I was the police, then I would have the 411 on those people. You understand? I'd have the intelligence to know who they were. I'd have access to all of that. But if I'm not going to be a part of it, I'm going to tell my enemy, you run all the intelligence apparatus. You have all the legal guns. You have the authority to check or not check me, and then think I'm talking about revolution or freedom fighting or anything that has any sanity to it. I suggest that every young Black man and woman that don't go to college should join the dang gone military. You can't shoot a slingshot, and you're talking about fighting a revolution? 2 years in the military will teach you something. And don't tell me about fighting a war for somebody else, because like I said on the last show, in the last 30 years, we've killed over 300,000 of our own people. So even fighting a war against yourself, because you don't have the sense to understand how to be responsible with a weapon. And 1/3 of those people you kill with the innocent bystanders are women and our children. I don't want to hear that stuff. Get your behind and get the same training those right-wing crackers have. Get the military skills they have. And ain't nobody teaching that on the block, because we don't have the wherewithal to do it. Stop lying and stop playing.
I think what you're saying is kind of legitimized by this person named Grandmaster Jay.
Love that man. Spoke to him 2 weeks ago. I was glad that he was pulled off of the set and didn't have to be trapped into this thing this setup that just happened. He's a beautiful, brave young brother. I understand him thoroughly.
Right. And I think he exemplifies what you expressed in terms of getting that training and having that awareness, because they don't want to mess with him because he knows what's going on. And I think there's a certain level of fear of him being organized on such a level that he could present a threat to the status quo. So, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And
the other piece of this, remember, if we are the police, right? And we're running the precincts in our community, we got access to all this intelligence information that everybody else got access to. Right now, we're sitting in the dark. We don't know who's who and who's what they're doing or nothing, because we're advocating the control of our community to other people. And again, that was a media-driven thing, the concept off the pig. Now, everybody in the Black Panther Party wasn't talking about off and no pig or down with no pig. They made us that. You know, people were talking about food, clothing, shelter, safety, security. People were talking about taking over the police department and running it ourselves. People were talking about becoming the Black teachers in our community and the Black firemen. And somebody reduced us to off the pig as our identity as a movement. We were feeding children who was going to school hungry in the morning, a policy that the nation has now adopted. And we got reduced to, we want to shoot a cop and we don't want to be a cop. And then you bring our worst, most depraved elements of your community to be that cop. And so I was just trying to equating what policemen, men and women, when they take their job seriously, can be to a community. Now, let me just say one other thing I'm shocked about what happened down there at the Capitol. There was a number of different elements and forces playing out. And I don't think they came in to really kill anybody. I agree with you, Vance, that they wanted to project a force that we would have to be afraid of and think we have to reckon with. But I grew up in South Carolina. That force is not that powerful and it's not that big, okay? These so-called militias, they've overblown them in the media for the last 10 years. Ever since the David Koresh thing, they realized they didn't have a backup. As we take over political leadership in our community, take more of our people in police departments, more of our people in the military, they didn't have a backup. So they bring us the straw man, a boogeyman, the white militia that's going to take over 50 capitals. They ain't stupid enough to even try that. They wanted to make a point here because you had different forces playing. And the idiot who was directing them, he's an idiot, but not an idiot because he takes his orders from someone else. Trump takes his orders from someone. He's not doing this on his own. He knows better. He knows they can put him to sleep anytime they want to. He ain't stupid. He ain't that stupid. We need to find out who's giving those orders. That this handful of families, these handful of scholars, and these handful of economists is controlling 350 million people and the wealth of this nation, and got us looking at straw men and straw women in politics and in militias and other things. And I think part of what this was to give the forces, Black and whites and others who are trying to build a nation, something to fear that doesn't exist at the level they want you to think it exists at. I agree with you on that. And I think the media, the ones who've had, including CNN, who've had Trump in the news every day since he started to run for president, has done more to promote Trump than Fox. And we need to ask why. And then the way you do the why is find out who owns these media. What ethnic group owns it? You need to ask why you can have a population of white people who are less than 3%, but they hold 7% to 8% of the seat in Congress. And a lot of those seats, they're getting elected from our community. When Black people made a shift away from white liberalism and white left guidance, they created another movement phenomena in our community called the LGBT. And they put multiple of their people in critical leadership in our community as they use in the school system and other things to legitimize this as a social process in our community. But it's nothing more but than an arm of the same white left that was causing the rift between Du Bois and Garvey, that caused the rift between Garvey and Booker, the same one that caused the rift between Dr. King and Malcolm. And I'm not going to get you in trouble by calling them out like I said, but we know who they are.
Right.
I hope that clarity finds us.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I want to shift gears and talk about what Brother T'Challa is bringing to our conversation today, and that is the rehabilitation of the African mind. You know, when we look back at what happened last week, and we look back at the George Floyd homicide, and we look back at all these tragic events, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, you go through a litany of names that have imposed a certain trauma on that. We're experiencing that through mental means, that the programming that you talk about, the television screens, the phone screens that we stare at incessantly all day. We're being delivered imagery, and we're being delivered information on a mental basis. But brother, you are talking about rehabilitating the African mind, and you're talking about music and language as an implement, something that can allow that to happen. So could you talk about the relevance of rehabilitation of the African mind to the landscape that we're navigating right now?
Absolutely. So as you said, Baba Vince, we have a information overload. Just you logging onto the show, tuning into the show, you see an image, you see someone talking. Baba Smalls is dropping jewels, Baba Vince is dropping jewels, and hopefully some of my wisdom can find you. And so you've got three narratives that you're viewing right now. And maybe you understand some of the information. Maybe you don't. Maybe you agree with some of it. Maybe you don't. And it's one thing to view the information, to internalize it, and to feel it into Black power and everything like that. But it's another to do what we call fact check. We want to address the methodology of what the person is saying. How did they get to that conclusion? How did Baba Smalls come to his conclusion to solve the problems that he's been solving in his lifetime? Baba Vince, how did you come to the conclusion, to solve the problems in your lifetime? And that's what you want to focus on as far as rehabilitating your mind as an African globally, because we have this same problem on the continent. But as an African globally, we have to understand that there's too much information coming in without enough fact checking. Regurgitating urban myths that are dangerous for the community, especially right now. Very dangerous. We have to fact check the information that we're viewing. I was just on a post the other day, and someone put up a teacher teaching a class, and the student yelled out, "I saw it on Hidden Colors. This is, what you're teaching us is fake, this and that." And I put on the post, I said, well, there's some misinformation in Hidden Colors as well. And I know I'm moving around, but I'm going to tie it all together because, like many African cosmogonies, we work in circular fashion because we're on a journey. So, Hidden Colors, it's not like you can view something. Remember, we're viewing Hidden Colors via a screen. That's a program. Somebody decided, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. This is what we're going to show. This is the slide, the image. This is the video clip. And then boom, that's the show. Is there correct information in there? Have Black people been oppressed for the better of a few thousand years now at this point? Sure. But to sit here and to view a program and to just say that every single thing that comes from the program is just going to be correct because I agree with the first couple things in Hidden Colors Part 1. I like a few things in Part 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I just want to regurgitate, hey, just view this programming, this one cookie cutter size fit all, as diverse and beautiful as our people are, psychologically, on every level. We're just diverse. Black people, you can't just encompass us and put us in a box and compartmentalize us and say Black people are this and Black people are that. In Africa, multiple things are true. And so back to the programming, you have to consider that a human being in front of you may or may not be telling the truth. Getting us out of that religiosity of just watching a person speak to us and yes manning it and just regurgitating the information for a week to come back and hear more to regurgitate for a week. We have to get out of finding confirmation bias. Again, the methodology. How did you decide that the intellect of the Kofi Piesie research team was a group of individuals that you wanted to be a part of? Not just because you're around here with a red, black, and green, some big heavy beads on. You got plenty books, writing plenty books. You know, unshameless plug. I'm gonna go ahead and plug the families. You know what I mean? Sure, these brothers are doing great things. But I'm not just a part of the group because, oh, I like what you say. No. It is because I have went, as I told Baba Smalls before we got on here on the interview, that I've been learning from this, like he said, since you were born into consciousness. So since I was aware of myself, I have been hearing the words and things that he talks about. And I truthfully agree and thank him for his words and saying that this is the time now. Everybody that is alive right now, this is the time right now. This is the time to rehabilitate your mind via language, study the sesh, learn, figure out what exactly the maxims of Patah and you know, teachings of Ma'at all day, every day. You know, it's important that we rehabilitate our minds. There's too much information that we're taking in.
Okay. So I want to segue into a conversation about history and the relevance of history in connection with our minds. And I'm doing that to just welcome Professor Small back into the conversation, because we had a lengthy conversation on WERE today about spirituality. You brought forth a great conversation about the difference between religion and spirituality. And you also said that you didn't like the use of the term spirituality. You talked about African sacred science. Could you talk about the importance of African sacred science and the relationship that has to our mental state?
Well, because we have to establish through a study of history as much as you can. And history don't just include the chronology of events. That's part of it. History includes everything. Our dance, why do we dance? Why do we dance that particular dance? Our music, our language, the things we call culture. The reasons you don't find big universities all over historical Africa, because they didn't need them. The culture was the university and still is the university. The different stratas, the rites of passage elements in that culture. What is taught in those communities whose job it is to shepherd children from this age to this age and pass them to another group that shelter them from this age to this age as they go through their societies of secret, so-called, and so on. We sometimes measure how Africa did things by how Europeans did things. Every African language that I've looked at, their word for person, people, place, or thing have their word for God as either the suffix or the prefix. And that is worth noting to really understand what the African saw itself as being. And I like to use the Ewe because they give us our word voodoo. And that word means the essence of the divine in something. if they say in the Ewe language, Voodoo Gadzi, it means the essence of the divine within the human. Voodoo Daha, the essence of the divine within the ecology, what we call nature. When they refer to the divine, they refer to it as the totality of creation, everything including you. And when they broke down the way they taught their systems, they went from the whole to the part. Whereas Europeans go from the part trying to figure out a way to make it whole. And so in an African tradition like the Yoruba, you have an Oludumare, which is the totality of everything. And then you have the Orishas, which are the varied aspect of that totality, which represents the possibility of how you can train yourself, or the society train itself to match the training of cosmology and ecology, so there's harmony in those three relationships. Most of us look for answers anywhere except from Africa. Most of us want to be African, but not to be an African. And I don't mean living there, because being on the continent is not what makes you African, because we populated this entire planet. We're hoping that the Genesis was on the continent, but there's still so much we don't know. What we know today says the Genesis, when nature manifests itself as human, it happened on the place we call the continent of Africa. But we populated this whole earth before anybody became yellow, white, or brown. And so in doing so, the one thing I find in looking at history that we left was that we didn't see ourselves any different from the butterfly, the bug, or the bush. We were another element in this totality that had its own peculiar role and peculiar function. And so you had to have a knowledge of your environment, a knowledge of your ecology, a knowledge of yourself, meaning your anatomy and your body ecology, and what was the relationship. And then you had to work out, how am I going to teach this to the next generation? Because that is the intergenerational transmission of the wisdoms where we've been bogging down. How do we get this to the next generation? And so we need to do more studying on how they did it in Africa. What was these different secret societies they had? What were these different ceremonies they were doing? You know, how did they design it? Why did they design it? And it may have worked for then, but will it work for now? Or how effective will it be now if we employ it? And so Western things make us think there's a God someplace out there. That's not African culture at all. Except many African cultures, since colonialism and slavery, even on the continent, is playing that same game. Oludumare up there and this God is over there. That's not, if you listen to the language, that's not the culture. The culture is that God is every and all things at once, and we are part of that every and all things at once, except we have to be conscious of it and carry out a practice that ensures the continuity and the harmony and the balance of the relationship. And that's where institutions come in, because you build institutions to do transmission of wisdom to keep things in harmony. You can call those institutions religions. At the end of the day, I don't like the concept, because it's more than religion, because it requires you having a body of knowledge about the universe and the ecology and the living things in it, and the fundamental relationship to one another. You know, and so if you go back to ancient Kemet, you see all of these books on medicine and on science and stuff. You see temples with astrology. Astrology was simply a methodology for teaching astronomy to the masses, because the cattle herder don't have time to study astronomy. The fishermen don't have time to study agronomy. You know, The guy who's building the mud huts as a way of living, he doesn't have time. So somebody has to do those things for the society. And that's what that class that we unfortunately call priests, and they should be called scientists or sacred scientists. Their job is to learn that and to find a way to get that information in the minds of the everyday people who didn't have time to learn this thing of how to be. And that's not easy. And I listening to my young brother, that's what he's saying. But there's also something else I hear. We must be careful about when we start talking methodology to make sure that we look to Africa for methodology as well. I think one of my professors, Akin Jobin, says, you know, culture is not static. It has to change as things evolve. And sometimes you must remove some things that are no longer useful to you and replace it with other things that have use to where you are and where you're at now. And so one of the greatest weaknesses in our total fight to get back our minds have been not looking to Africa for that mind. And when the Nile Valley got open to us after Dr. Bannon and ASCAC and Dr. Jake and, you know, the others who have given us so much, we stopped looking at the other 90% of the continent. So we need to make sure that we're looking to Africa to figure out how to be African. Even though much of our tools have been adopted by the West, that we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, like they say, because much of what is in Harvard and Yale and Princeton, those are African tools and African methodology. The whole concept of going from a bachelor's degree to a PhD is African methodology that comes straight out of Nile Valley. And so we know they've taken our stops and put it into their cultural twist. But we have to make sure that we also look for authenticity of whatever we're using in Africa itself, realizing that much of what's going on in Africa itself has been polluted by slavery and occupation and colonialism and Islam and Christianity, which has been dominating our psyche. And then the histology and the sociology of how we get our values, interests, and principles by media, which I think brother has broken down very, very deeply. And there are brothers and sisters on the continent that are struggling to deal with that. And there's one book called Learning the Music, Arts, and Contemporary Africa. Brothers out of South Africa who've been working on that piece. And then the Journal of Music and Arts in Africa, where they're really seriously trying to look at, like, why did we make the music? What was music? Is like a cup, it's a vessel, like dancing. It's a cup. We do it for a reason. There's something in each step. There's something in each body movement, something in each hand movement. But then the other thing that I think brother was strong, and then I'm gonna shut up, was that when all of us are standing before you, even if we're not on media, everybody is their presentation, because that's all you can present. So that's why our community look for a common measuring instrument to know that what we are presenting is a part of the universal good, the ma'at, or whatever term we want to use. And so I separate African spirituality from European religiosity. I call it sacred science because we've taken spirituality and made it religion. You know, we just think if we call it African spirituality and we're still doing religion. No, religion is a tool of spirituality when it is needed. But spirituality is not subordinate to it. What we call in spirituality should be the integrity of the science of knowing things and the methodology of how to practice things that will allow us to remain in that harmony and that relationship with the rest of things.
You talked about the importance of Nile Valley civilization, and I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to talk about the Hopi film. You kind of started off that film as the first person that you're seeing as you're introducing the idea, and we know that there's a direct relationship between what happened during the heyday of Nile Valley civilization and our success economically, politically, culturally, and all those other things that are tied to the greatness of that civilization. Brother T'Challa also brought up the film Hidden Colors. He pointed out that there were some things in the film that may not have been totally accurate. And we've had scholars such as Brother Tony Browder who have indicated that there were things that weren't correct, and he offered a study guide to correct the things that were incorrect. As I see this Hopi film, I see that film as something that gave us an opportunity to get it right. And I'm sure you would agree about the integrity of that film. So could you talk a bit about the Hopi film, and I'll let folks know how they can connect with them in order to get that copy.
Okay, I'm a capsulizer because I want to hear my young brother come back on some of the things I was saying. So keep your notes, son. Don't lose your thought. When we started the Hopi film, it was about 3 years ago. It wasn't even called Hopi then. We were trying to find a way to explain to Black people what we have to do to optimize our economic development. Trying to find a symbol, trying to find a way. And I think it was Brother Taki who came up with, like, let's look at the Hopi River as a symbol, and let's look at the civilization that it produced. And let's figure out how we interpret that symbol to use it today. So the Happy River in the Nile Valley, bringing all that Black silk from as far down as South Africa and Congo and Uganda and Ethiopia, that allowed them to produce an agricultural foundation that allowed them to produce the kind of capital that built this enormous civilization at the end of the day. And so the question is then, when we look at the beautiful civilization and all the institutions it created to sustain itself and to promote itself, where's our Happy River today in Chicago? Where's our Happy River in Harlem? Where's our Happy River in Cleveland or LA? When we're looking at Happy as being a body of water that started out as small little rivers and tributaries feeding into itself until it became that enormous river. So that gave us the opportunity to produce the capital. So where are the different tributaries and small rivers of economic wealth in the Black community, education in the Black community, understanding in the Black community that could come together and show us how to gain control of economic politics and culture where we live, that can show us how to gain control of land, labor, and resources where we live, that can show us how to provide food, clothing, shelter, safety where we live. Where are those tributaries? That means the Black barbershop, the Black bank, the Black car mechanic shop, the Black plumber, the Black school teacher, the Black college professor, the Black real estate person. Those are the tributaries that can make up the new Happy. How do we then, what are the principles, what are the guidance, what are the understanding we then use to bring those tributaries together so it can become that extraordinary river Happy in any community we live in the world? So that's the concept.
Okay. I've got a sense that you wanted to hear from our young brother here, so I want to give him an opportunity to respond to the issues that you raised. T'Challa, the floor is yours, brother.
Okay. I'm just sitting here enjoying the bill. In regards to what Dr. Smalls was talking about with how the African sees themselves connected to every other piece of their environment. In Nkulu, which is what the Amazulu say, everything is everything. And here I have, to speak to that point, one of my favorite scholars, everybody knows, Brother Sarim Hotep, with his book, Nisubiti, King and Ancient Egyptian, A Lesson in Paronymian Leadership. So on page 98, he's giving an example of metaphors in English for the word body. And so he says, I'm gonna just read a little bit of this. I'm not gonna read the whole list, but he says, in languages across the world, the human body is also a productive source domain for naming all kinds of things that are perceived to be like the body. This is why we refer to the bowels of the earth, to its heart, and so on. Here are some other examples in English of body metaphors: a body of people, a body of water, the body of work, the body of a work, the eye of a storm, and he goes on to list many examples. And here I want to show real quick is an image of, I don't know how well you can see it, but on the next page. So that's the picture of a village in Africa, okay? And different parts of the village are named after different parts of the body. So what we have to do, and as you can see with what we know as hieroglyphs or the sesh, we're looking at pictures of things in our environment, okay? So if our language is reflective of our environment via imagery, and we can relate to things based off of just seeing something instantly. I could send a whole text with emojis and I don't have to use the Latin script that we use to write English. And I can find a way for you to understand whether you're old or young. And we have to understand that sort of all-inclusive mentality that the African mind has with its environment. In Africa, multiple things are true at the same time. It's an equation. And music allows you to witness that equation, to be a part of that equation, to see where you are in that equation. You play your role in certain instances, and then there's a place in the music where you don't play anything. You allow others within the equation to function with their role so that your role can also be true. And on the other side of the equation, that has to balance out in the same fashion. We call that ma'at. And if we don't seek that balance, where that harmonious relationship between us and the rest of nature, that in and of itself is the Eurocentric mind, in the sense that I am separate from the Beatle, I am separate from Baba Smalls, I am separate from Baba Robinson and anyone else and anything else. I am a separate entity, when we know that modern science tells us that we're comprised of the very same molecules and atoms that permeate all of the cosmos. And so while we may be these 2/3 water, the other third solid mass of bone and flesh and cartilage and muscle, and we may be doctors, lawyers, authors, researchers, moms, dads, children, whoever, we are ultimately all comprised of some basic elements that our African intellect was describing for a long time. Systems within systems to make the one system, all seeking to get back to the singularity. Every creature you observe seeks to get back to the singularity. We seek companionship. Atoms gravitate towards each other. That's solid mass. We have to understand where we are in the rhythmic evolutionary soup, instead of looking at ourselves as being outside, similar to what Baba Smalls was talking about with, yeah, it's time for us to step up and go ahead and be the policemen, go ahead and be the teachers, go ahead and be the doctors, lawyers, so we can dispel the nonsense of having a fear of something that will eradicate the evil spirit, evil deity different kind of energy, however we would describe it in an African fashion, because COVID-19 is a deity in Africa. It is. It's an agent and a force that you can't see that has the ability to affect the rest of the environment. And so, not to be too long with it, because I'm on the panel here to learn myself, but
no, we want to hear from you, son. Keep going. You're on it.
I mean, we and this is not stuff that I just basically, I went to sleep one night and I woke up and I recognize all of this. No, everything in life is a process. I don't have it all together. But I can guarantee you that when I wake up in the morning, I get in them vocabulary words, I bust a sweat so that I can check my energy, so that I can truly manifest what I was here to do. I have a job here to do in African fashion. And unless I recognize that I can learn even from the fool, because the fool is actually the biggest teacher. A lot of times in life, we learn things where it took the other person choosing to do the wrong thing for us to just know. Nobody told us, okay, you got to watch this, watch that. We just watch somebody not watch out. And so in that fashion, we have to learn from the mistakes of those that do have the power with the badges and the guns. Yeah, they used to be the runaway patrol. And yeah, we Black people have been through it and continuing to going through. Like, we're not going to stop. We're not just going to roll over and give up. That's why we can eat all this processed food and still come out and change our lives, change our diet for the better for our health, and become a healthier person and produce healthy offspring that might have a bit more resistance built up to certain things we've ingested in our lifetime, so that they might be less adapt to die under certain circumstances. We have to understand things from an inside out. We cannot have a fear of addressing internal problems, because it is the internal self that allows the outer self to exist and to function. My inner self is digesting my breakfast that I had, giving me the energy to be on this interview and this call and to talk and present information and to receive and to grow. That ain't none of y'all business. That's going on with me. It ain't even none of my business as far as me who's talking to you. But the other me is getting busy. And later on, the outer me will also get busy, busting a good sweat. Instead of the person that cut me off in traffic yesterday, road rage and honking my horn, was in a terrible accident. Well, it wasn't that terrible because I do have my life, but it was a decent little scare. I'll say that much last year, right before the year ended. And looking at death in the face as many times as I have, I can honestly sit here and say that I don't necessarily have a fear of death, because I understand the African mind, where we're talking about we are a part of the same energy source that permeates all. All in existence is comprised of the same energy source. Peace, brother Unc.
Black African Power, man. I just wanted to come on and just say peace to the great elder, Professor James Small. That's my favorite right there. I just want to say hi to him, man. See he was dealing with you, man.
We missed our appointment last Saturday.
I know. Can we do it after this? You gonna be free?
I have another webinar with the Sons of Africa, and then I'll be free.
Okay, bet. Yeah. All right, we're gonna do that this week. This day, Saturday. That'll work. I'm up for that. Make sure I take care of you on that. I think the interview is a great interview. How you doing, brother Vince? How you feeling?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Just holding on, just enjoying the conversation. And I'm just glad to stand on the shoulders of the elders to continue to fight. T'Challa, man, I appreciate you bringing the elder on, man. I just want to make sure Professor Smalls know you part of the family. You know what I'm saying? You might not know that. That, you know, we dedicated to making sure we get this thing right. And like I always learn from the great professor, it's, you know, it's a continual fight. It's not just one battle. It's what they did, right? It's what we continue to do. And it's about raising the next generation to continue to fight. You ain't gonna beat the fight in the first round. And so they, you know, like I was always taught, it didn't take 5 minutes to get us in this condition. So it's going to take about the same amount of time to get us out of it. So we just want to stay consistent with the message and hold on to the elders that continue to fight the proper way.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
All right. So you still have your train of thought, Brother T'Challa?
Yeah, I just really in closing, I you know, but before I say that, let me say this, because I think a lot of people don't really understand why I get so harped on language. We're speaking English. And so therefore, everything that we understand has been given to us in a fashion that does not operate with how we've operated on this planet for a long time. Not getting too technical into the English language and how language actually works, but the construction of an idea, how it's conceptualized, right? It can be, it's reflected based on the meanings of the words and what the word is trying to describe, because the word is the representation. The thing is the presentation. So words are symbols, letters are symbols, everything's a symbol. It's a representation, right, of what we're describing. And in my opinion, okay, this is my opinion, that when the brain is learning an African language, it's being asked to work in that all-inclusive realm. From a musical perspective, the way we learn djembe from West Africa, from the Great Malian Empire, ain't no sheet music there. We're not sitting there 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a no. You ask any one of the teachers there, where's the one, or what the concept of the one, and they looking at you like, what is this one business that you're so concerned about? And so when we're learning things in a fashion from a language that tells you that this is what the rules are and what it has to be, this is where we draw the line, what's left, right, up, and down. This is where, you know, red becomes blue and blue becomes red. We deal in absolutes. That's not to say that definitive concepts and principles doesn't come out of Africa, because they absolutely do, right? But what I'm saying is, for me to sit here and say, oh, well, Brother Unc, how you gonna call yourself the God killer? And you know what God mean? And slow down, watch a few videos, look at a few bills, baby, get a book. I got your book, Brother Unc, it's over here somewhere. But like, read something and see, back to what I was saying about methodology. Well, what is this person saying to me? If they even wrote anything. Like, because I'm a fresh author myself. Kofi Piesie research team, we fresh authors coming off the Armor Raw Squad family.
It's my favorite books right there, man. They just, like, I'm just inspired, man, because see, this is what y'all don't know. Now, I'm gonna give y'all some game right here. You see that dude sitting right there, Professor Smalls? I might have met him about 20-something years ago, and I was coming up out my Nuwapian thing, and I was looking for some inspiration, right? I was looking for somebody that could just move me with the down home street thing. And you know, so I go, I think it was, I forget what it was, but they said, we got Professor Smalls speaking. I'm like, all right, so I wanted to study up on him before I actually, you know, heard him. So I looked at some videos. I was like, man. And one of the first things he said was, I'm not going to be nice like Dr. Ben and everybody else. I was like, man, Dr. Ben wasn't really being nice and he was kicking it. I say, man. And when Professor got to kicking it, he was kicking it. But he was kicking it in a way where you understood what he was saying, like the message of Africa, and then the experiences that we had in America. I say, okay, I'm ready to go here and speak. So I went and heard him, and I went and listened to him. And the way he spoke moved me. It was the intelligence. It was the way he spoke. It was the street portion that he kept in his game that really, made me gravitate and stick to what he was saying. And just the way he used his words and the way he spoke and the rhythm and the way he just beat up on God without you knowing he was beating up on God. I was like, man, that's magnificent right there, man. Like I understood what he was saying. Like he was saying, where are you in the equation of things? Right. And it's this thing he said, and I might mess it up, but he said, it went like this, and I know I might be misquoted, but he said he was the essence and the expression of the divine having a human experience. Like that was the slickest thing I heard. Like that's slick right there. What is he saying when he say that? He's saying, and we deal with scientific literacy, right? So a scientist would say that there's protons, neutrons, electrons, and T'Challa, you kind of spoke on this, right? And the scientists will say that there's the Big Bang, okay? And we know the theory, right? And he'll say that we're all connected, like all life comes from the sun, right? And everything is interconnected, and we understand that platform, right? But when Professor Smalls takes a scientific idea and puts it in an African expression, that's deep right there. Because you see that our ancestors had a way of understanding the cosmos. I'm not saying they understood it like we do now. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is they was on their A game for that time. And they understood the interrelationship between everything. The same thing they do now. They understand the interrelationship. They understand that maybe using certain pesticides, chemicals wasn't good. It might have saved us from starving, but at the end of the day, pesticides are all over the earth and it affects the whole earth. So now they want to kind of take away the pesticides and introduce certain insects that are killing the insects that might be eating the plants. That's real slick right there. So doing that, you see that modern science is starting to understand the relationship with everything that our African ancestors understood without all the technicalities. So that's saying right there, I was like, man, how slick is that guy? Man. And ever since, man, I've just been attracted to his message. I make sure I stay on par with him. He know anytime he need anything, and he already know, man, 99.99 of our elders in this community, man, they don't do what they supposed to do. They do not step up in times of crisis like they supposed to. They run and tuck their tail. What I would say is Professor Smalls has always given me an open line to him. He's always treated me like a son. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I feel like I'm his son, the way he treat me. He's always given me respect. And when I'm wrong, he let me know I'm wrong. When I'm right, he let me know I'm right. And he just say, remember, man, I can't see everything you see. I can't see it. But since you stand on my shoulders, you can see it a little bit better. So I just wanted to put that there, man. So the source of what I do, like the whole I'm a Raw Squad thing, that came out of, you know what I'm saying, that relationship with Professor James Smalls. All the families, the pseudo killers, the I'm a Raw Squad, Mossi Clan Warriors, Piesie Kofi research team. I always mess that up. All of it, right? Up to just the thought process of having research teams and wanting to continue the message and wanting to put protection on that message. It came from me being inspired by Professor James Smalls. Simple as that. Ain't no cut card. Simple as that. I just wanted to, put that out in the atmosphere because that's what it was.
All right. Well, we appreciate that. I'm sure that Professor Small is gratified to know that he's been such an influence. And I'm also gratified to know that there is connectivity and awareness of scholarship. You know, the reason that I invited Brother T'Challa to this conversation is because of the intellectual aspect of it and the fact that we need to engage on an intellectual basis. You know, we got brothers and sisters in our community that can tell you everything that happened on the Atlanta Housewives. They can tell you every play that happened in the basketball game last night. But when you ask them a question about their history or their culture, they're absolutely lost. And even worse than that, they have no interest in it because they don't see the relevance. But there is a direct connection between our history, our culture, and our existence in this world on a global basis. And we need to connect to that in order to know ourselves, as Professor Small was talking to us about the importance of when we were on the radio program today. I want to, since we have the benefit of the young folk who are on our show right now, and I alluded to that whole Atlanta Housewives piece, I want to talk to you young brothers about how you engage your contemporaries in these intellectual dimensions. You know, there's a myth that if you want to hide something from Black people, you put it in a book, right? But you brothers are publishing books like every month, every 2 months, you got something new coming out, and it's heavyweight material. It's not lightweight. It's not like reading some love story or whatever. You're talking about history. You're talking about science. You're connecting all these dots. So I'm just interested in knowing from you how you're connecting with your contemporaries and what's their headspace right now, because you know, in a matter of years, you know, we become ancestors. Professor Small said today he's 75 years old. You know, I'm not nipping at his heels, but I'm not far behind. You know, so when we're gone, we hand the reins over to you. So we want to know, where are you? Where are your contemporaries? Are they, you know, are they finding some consciousness in the realm of trap music and mumble rap and all these things that are filling their minds, as well as the virtual worlds that they live in? You know, people playing video games all day long, you know, stay up all night, drag themselves into work after they've been playing a game all night. I mean, I just want to know on a personal level, and I'm sure Professor Small is interested in as well, you know, what's on the minds of young people right now, and how connected are they to the intellectualism and the scholarship that you brothers are about?
Well, I'll just say this to really sum up the answer to your question. Right now, this is what's been on my mind. All right. Our brother Sean wrote a book that I'm not gonna give y'all none of the, you gotta get the book. Okay. From cocaine to consciousness. To not bash and beat up and down talk another African who is me. That's me. I'm another brother. I see you on the street. I'm another brother passing, whether I got red, black, and green on, or whether I got Gucci and whatever else. I'm another brother walking down the street, no different than you. Another sister walking down the street. We're all in this together. I'm not too far from removed from a list of options, you know what I mean, considering to make a living. Like, who am I to judge a person and I ain't got all my ducks in a row? Number one, yes, we know the effects of certain actions. We understand cause and effect. Okay. But what does happen, as you alluded to, Baba Vince, was a lot of the music that you find us listening to. First of all, we're connecting based off how slick and sweet the message can get across with that undertone of that beat. That at our core drives us. I mean, the birth of hip hop comes out of the djembe orchestra from West Africa. Ragtime and blues, the drummer shuffle, the blues shuffle, that backbeat. is a rhythm that is played on for different orishas, as well as just any griot song or story that they're going to tell. If they're using a balafon and a particular water drum, we can map that same rhythm to those instruments from the Malian Empire. So looking at things from that perspective with the music and hip hop and rock and roll, because, you know, Jimi Hendrix had his day, and we go back to like the musicians of Motown that most people really don't know about. And now I wasn't alive at this time, of course, but I do my research on music. I mean, you get you some Miles Coltrane going, and you can, I mean, I wrote some of my first and second contributions to Volume 1 and 2, listening to some good Duke Ellington. Yes, I did. So my point is, we're looking to, because while we selling these drugs and while we doing what we doing in the street, and yeah, we might be out knocking each other upside the head, we gotta always have our music blasted. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, come down, roll down the block with the music blasted. And we have to understand that where we are as a people, we can never reach and truly pull each other up until we figure out what is it that they're connecting with something that seems to produce such a negative message for some people, but can produce such a positive emotion in others. That has to be addressed. And looking at that in that way is the whole inclusive understanding that we have in Africa, is that one tree does not make a forest. Great Nigerian proverb. So I'm one tree with my one method, with my roots growing deep in the earth. But then I have these other trees that have been planted a few years before me, who I've been feeding from. The Baba Vinces, Baba Smalls, Brother Unks. Yeah. Kofi Piesie research team, every one of those brothers I learn from all day, every day. The back chat be lit, yo. I'm just going to say that. Lit. You know what I'm saying? And so we're connecting with language and music. That's why I stay in my lane right here. Language and music are both one and the same, first of all. Organized sound that's repeated. There's a rhythm there. That's language. And if I play a certain beat right now to a certain audience, we're all going to start playing the same song. We don't have to speak the same language. That's how we got along over here in the slave trade in the first place, because we were on the ships communicating. We already, half of us spoke each other's dialect due to trade in the marketplace. And due to when the baby naming ceremony, I travel to your village because I got to play at your baby name ceremony. And then you come to my village. We was already connected. It was a network. And when we got on those ships, we was thumping on our chest, on our lap, and on our shoulders, and we was kicking it because we was all in that thing together. We have to understand where we are with each other, no matter what tribe, what village, what kente cloth, what drum, what dance move, which side you wear your cap all slick like Brother Unc, or if you turn around and put a beanie on like myself and Professor Small, or nothing like. We have to understand where we all are together. Because we all got the same problem right now. Can walk right out this door and get gunned down by our own, by the ones with the badges, by whoever. And so until we vibrate and listen to each other's music and learn to play each other's music to a degree. So you can't just be, oh, I'm just out here in the streets and I'm not going to try to kick no type of positivity and knowledge, because that's not what the streets was about back in the day. Not like that. Yeah, you had your drugs going on, but you also had like the formation of these said organizations in the community. There was a resistance and progress. It was a community resisting the same thing we've been resisting as Black communities. And all these books here next to me with the methodology and the right words to say, it don't mean nothing if I don't learn how to apply it. And if I don't have examples like on this panel, like Kofi Piesie research team and our supporters. Shout out to all the Armor Raw Squad affiliate families. Shout out to Dr. O.A.A.U too. Peace, brother Kofi.
Peace, peace.
We have to understand, even that, shouting each other out. I don't even hear that enough on the community. To be honest, I was a part of a few different circles before I found Armor Raw Squad. And I don't see a whole lot of people big each other up and support each other like that. You all on this panel, you all have shown us so much love. But Baba Vince, you always like, man, we just really appreciate it because we're just trying to follow in you all's footsteps. Trying to make you all proud, trying to make Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark proud, we're just trying to continue in the legacy. Those that are living among us right now, who will later on have the names rung just as loud and just as loud in my book today as said names. We really appreciate you all that support and that have given us the foundational nutrition so that we might grow into something.
Well, I'll say, Brother T'Challa, that I appreciate you and I appreciate your brothers for what you're doing. You know, it's not really, it's nothing that requires twisting my arm to put you all on, because I know that your heart and your mind are in the right place. We've been joined by Brother Kofi Piesie, who was a visionary who had the idea to bring you all together and start putting these books on. We've been on for almost an hour and 45 minutes, and I know that Professor Small does have some other obligations that he needs to run to. So I want to welcome you to the show, Brother Kofi, and I will give you an opportunity to talk about what you are and what you do. But I also want to defer to Professor Small, knowing that he has his obligations, and ask him if he has anything more that he wants to share with us, any closing words of wisdom, just out of respect for my elder.
Yes, I just want to greet Brother Kofi and congratulations on the work, but that's what we do. That's what it's supposed to be doing. It's good to be with the brothers today, and thank you, Brother Vince. Yeah, I'm about halfway a meeting of the Sons of Africa. I'm about 30 minutes late for, but I wanted to listen in and really hear. Like I said earlier, I'm not worried about the next generation. They got this. You know, they got this. This is the best generation we ever produced, and they got this. So, yeah, I want to say that phrase for you. Is we are an expression of an aspect of the human experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't get it at first. And, you know, it's what we've always been saying, like, we be, you know, we just be. And to be is to be a part of that one totality. And even though you understand yourself, you realize you're just the microcosm of that great macrocosm and duplicate. And we duplicate ourselves in all kinds of ways, with words, with music, with ideas. But what we should be duplicating is that authenticity of the oneness, of beingness. I wish I could stay longer, but Brother Charles and them will beat me to death because we're trying to push some of our political prisoners and see if it get crazy, since he's pardoning everybody else. Be trying to get our lists up in there too. Then pardon all our brothers. They've been in penitentiary 40 years. Send them home. I don't care how they get home. You know, so we're working on that today and hope we have some success with Mamiya and Matula and some of the others. My brothers, peace and blessings. And we got to do this again. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad that you have an interest in that. And I will be more than happy to facilitate a conversation amongst these beautiful brothers and all that are associated with them, and connect all these different audiences that we have. So thank you so much, Professor Small.
Thank you, brother.
I'm looking forward to seeing you at Sanaa Lodge in Cape Coast. When we get these renovations done and we get it where we want it to be, and let's break bread in Cape Coast.
Yes, sir. And thanks for the support and the promote. We're going to get it done because, like it says, it's the place you do not leave until the task is complete. So we'll do this. Peace and blessings to everyone. Hotel.
Thank you so much.
All right, Black African Power.
All right. So welcome to the panel, brother. We got our brother Ankh, God Killer. We have Kofi Piesie, and I'm gonna get a lot of noise from somewhere. I don't know where it's coming from. But before we shut things down, brother Kofi, I just wanted to extend the invitation to you, and you can unmute your mic. Extend the invitation to you to jump in and tell us about all the things that you have been doing. You know, we've been pushing the 3 books that I'm aware of. We also gave our brother Inherit Sean Calfani a shout out for Cocaine to Consciousness, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with him about that book. I know you have another couple of books, and our brother T'Challa is holding up his book. So hype all the stuff that you've got going on so that folks know what you got. What's that? One Night Before Bed. That's another one of Sean's books. And I didn't really want to push folk to Amazon because I know what Amazon be doing, but I'm looking for Sean online and I can't find anything but Amazon. So can we get Cocaine to Consciousness on KofiPiesie.tv.com?
It's everything is on KofiPiesie.tv.com. Several publications that we have. First, peace to you, brother Vince.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you for having brother T'Challa on the panel, man. We greatly appreciate you, man, and all the support, man, that you have been giving us, man, over these last few months, man. We appreciate it. But yes, all the publications you can find on Kofi Piesie TV. All the collective efforts from Kofi Piesie research team for this from Spirits to Pens, a historical survey in the minds of African warrior scholars, Volume 1, from Spirits to Pen, historical survey of African warrior scholars, Volume 2. Our latest publication, which came out less than a month ago, Spearitual Combat, a historical survey in the minds of African warrior scholars, Volume 3, is on KofiPiesie.tv.com. I have a children's book out called Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland and African Education and Music and Instrument. It is also on KofiPiesie.tv.com. Sean's children's book, One Night Before Bed, is on KofiPiesie.tv.com. From Cocaine to Consciousness is on there as well as my book T'Challa was holding up. As I learned, we all learn. That's a phrase I've been using in the community for the last few years. So I put out a publication called As I Learned, We All Learn, sharing with others help deepen your own knowledge. All of those several publications which we published within 9 months span is all on Kofi Piesie TV.com. We asking that everyone patronize KofiPiesie.tv.com and not Amazon.com. You can get them off of Amazon.com. However, we appreciate the support either way. But we're asking that you go and support the authors themselves. You always want to support the author directly if you have access to that author. Always go and support that author and patronize his own business. But Amazon just publish our publication. But that's where you can find all the publications on KofiPiesie.tv.com. That's KofiPiesie TV.com. KofiPiesie.tv.com.
Yeah, we got it up on the screen for those who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook. And I wanted to be intentional about putting that out there because, you know, we kind of default to dealing with the other middleman. You know, when you go to Amazon, Amazon is going to give you a nice template. They're going to make it real easy for you to get your book out there. But then when it goes out there, they're going to take 40, 50, 60%,
60.
you know, and in order for you to make anything on the book that you put your hard work in, you're going to have to price it out of reach for folk in order for it to be a profitable, because you don't just do this to do it, you do it. This is how you live. This is how you eat, you know, and this is part of, you know, we talk about Ujamaa, you know, this is Ujamaa.
Right.
This is us, you know, cooperative economics.
Right.
So, you know, this is all a part of who we are, and we've got to live in who and what we are. And so it's like, you know, you walk the walk, you talk the talk. This is walking the walk. This ain't just talking about it. So I use that platform just to encourage folks just like you to do what you do, to write and to share and to profit from what you write and share, and don't just automatically hand it over to somebody who's taking the fruits of your labor. We have our brother God Killer on, and I'm wrapping things up because we've been on almost for 2 hours, and I know everybody's got busy schedules, and you probably have other programs that you've been doing today. You brothers are everywhere, man. I mean, John be blowing up my inbox with the different shows that you're doing, and I try to jump in when I can in the midst of doing the shows that I'm doing. But you know, as I said before, I just want to make sure that you know I'm fully supportive of what you do. And I'll say this also: we're not monolithic. You know, we there are generational differences, there are philosophical differences, but just because we disagree, it doesn't mean that we can't collaborate and get along with each other. You know, I want to make that expressly clear. And while I got everybody on the screen, you know, I spoke to T'Challa about this yesterday or the day before, but you know, we had a little incident with our brother Chill Herb. I saw a video that Kofi did, and I saw brother Kevin's video, and you know, I'm old school. Okay, I was around when Chill was blowing up the spot. As a matter of fact, I don't know if he's ever told you the story, but once upon a time, I was a DJ. I was the first black DJ at Kent State University to have a show in their venue in the student center. It's called the Rascaller. And I had a show called the Love Disco Funk Express. I was DJ Lonnie V back then, okay? I took the party off, all right? And when we closed things down, it was funkadelic, knee deep. And I had brothers and sisters going at it for 15 minutes and 12 seconds, okay? I used to rock the party. I had my own rap. I still do it to this day, okay? But I was a DJ back then. I was a hip hop artist back then. But when I left Kent State, I went into broadcasting and I left that to the side. All that being said, I saw the rap that you did, Brother Kofi, and I like what you did. And something just struck me. Let me write something. So I just wrote something. And you know how it is. Stuff comes to you. You just write it. You put it out there. So for me, it was just a joke. It was just an exercise. So I put that out there. And our brother saw what I did, and I guess there was something personal about it, you know. So then he came back, he clapped back, you know. when Chill clapped back, he wasn't using a 45, he wasn't using a 22. Brother came with an atomic bomb for a brother. I'm like, bruh, it ain't that serious, man. So I respectfully decline to engage in battle because it's not my intention to battle my brothers. I see you brothers as allies. I see us all working towards the same common goal, and that is lifting the consciousness of our people. That's what this is all about. So with all of that being said, just know that you have a platform and my platform, and I will do everything that I can to promote the various projects that you're involved in, and bring them to the consciousness and awareness of our people. And, you know, whatever we disagree about, we can disagree about, but it does not diminish my love for you one iota, you know, because, you know, no matter whether we do this or whether we do that, if we're making steps towards that destination, we will get there, and we will get there together with our arms locked and our fists proud in the air, and we will be the Africans that we are. With all of that said, I want to give Brother Ankh, God Killer, as he is monikered on this platform, I want to give you an opportunity to have your final words, and I will do the same with T'Challa and Kofi, and then we will wrap up this broadcast. So, God Killer, stage is yours.
Peace, peace, brother.
Hey, what's good, Kofi? How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man.
All right, how your son doing, man?
He doing well, man. He doing well.
Right. Okay. So you're on the other side of it. That's good, man. All right. Appreciate you. So yeah, you had asked a question earlier, or where I thought this next generation was, and I'm feeling kind of good where they at, because I'm looking at them right now, and that's all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to inspire the next generation. I didn't, for the first half of my life, I inspired them with drug dealing and hustling and owning stores and all that nonsense, right? And for me, this trail I've been on is to kind of give back and to restore lives instead of taking them. And so I'm looking at it now, and based off these last works that Piesie research team been doing, and looking at all the literature that the Amara Squad has produced, and the works of the pseudo killers and the Mossi, man, I'm saying we're in a good goddamn space, man. So now you can't run around unchecked. There's no running around unchecked right now. There's no saying anything out your mouth. There's no glory without getting some guts on you. There ain't none of that no more. When I come into this thing, Dr. Ben was old in a nursing home. Professor Leonard Jeffries, you know what I'm saying? He ain't really up for it, right? I came in with the bigger up for it. So, sometimes the older guys think, hey man, that Uncle very disrespectful. No, I'm not. I'm dealing with the world of men right now. You got to meet the force with the force. So you can't come in with a wood ship fighting against people with steel ships. You're gonna get ran over. So I had to make sure the gang was on par with everything around it, like all the technology, Facebook, YouTube. We had to be able to take advantage of that. But that next generation, man, based off where we sitting, man, we sitting real good. People hear about the families, all around the world now, and man, and the last night legacy, bringing up that red, last but not least, is Piesie research team. Like, man, I mean, they shining. It's their time, man. How they say they releasing their albums here, they releasing their books, man. It's just their time, man. And they doing it, so they just make me realize that, man, we come a long daggone way, man. We it's not over, but they will inspire other groups, and the groups will continue to inspire groups. But my kids, they bring a video to me of some nonsense. I'm smiling, because guess what, y'all? It started home. Don't get it twisted. We know who the enemy is, who the enemy can be. And based off of where you at, you'll know who the enemy is. But as dads, man, see, I want to represent a dad being with his family. That's what I really represent at the core, right? And if anything, if the brothers and sisters can get, man, this dude is with his family, raising his family. That's what's important. They ain't locking you up when you're 6 and 7. You start getting locked up down the line. You might hit 12, 13, then you're in the system. So we ain't gonna blame the system, right? We're gonna put some burden on the shoulders of the dads. So as long as I can promote healthy, being the dad, right? Then we good. And that's what the foundation of this is, man. The brothers, man, that pay attention and listen, and then the families, man, be a good damn dad. Raise the kids at home before they go out into the daggone war. That's important. So when my kids bring videos of misinformation to me, laughing at it, and can correct it without me saying it, I did my damn job, man. So yeah, man, that next generation for me, they're in a real good space. And I'm gonna let Kofi finish rocking out, because I appreciate all y'all works.
Oh, I don't have too much, man. Again, just appreciate, man, everybody for supporting Kofi Piesie research team and Mossi Warrior Clan YouTube channel, man. And again, it was We greatly appreciate you, brother Vince, for always letting us come on your platform, man, and talk about the various things that we got going on. You know, just sharing what just sharing with your audience, man. So we appreciate that, man. And just stay tuned, man. We ain't done. We put out a various of books last year. We gonna slow down a little bit this year, but we still gonna put out publications this year. So be on the lookout for a few publications coming later on down the pipeline. And we also have something coming out next month. It's not a book. It's something that's fun to try to help. I guess help families, help the younger generation. Will entice them. To learn. So we got something coming out, man, that I'm excited about. That'll be out for Black History Month. Well, I just say we have a Black of quiz and educational cards that you can play with your kid. Well, you can play with your kids, your couples. If you and your spouse can play the cards. Cards that you can utilize on your own. So we got educational cards, fun educational cards coming out. We're gonna try to see what that do and continue to put that out. We also working on a game. We're gonna put out a game kind of like Monopoly, but it's gonna be African centered. So be on the lookout. So we just trying to figure out different ways on how we can entice the young generation to learn. A certain way to learn. Besides reading books, because everybody's not gonna read books. But again, man, appreciate, man, you for having us, man, on your platform, man. That's all, man.
Okay. So there was a brother who came out with a line of cards, and I think he's already grossed in the millions of dollars based on sharing African-centered history through that platform. So look forward to that, and also know that you are involved in the clothing business. You've got African-centered clothing and so forth. So, there's definitely some enterprising going on. There's definitely some commerce. The young folks talk about merch. Y'all got merch, which is a good thing because, we don't have to walk around with Nike and Adidas and all those other brands on us. We can walk around with brands that are authentically ours. So I appreciate you bringing that to the consciousness of our folk. And again, we will continue to promote those things. I want to take this opportunity to thank my brother T'Challa. When I initiated this program, it was going to be a launch of a brand new show. So T'Challa is officially my first guest on this new platform. But as I got into it, I had an opportunity to bring in Professor Small. And T'Challa was like, man, it would be an honor to be on with him. So, he graciously accepted Professor Small being in on his platform. And what Professor Small got from it was he got to get the perspective that came from Brother T'Challa, as well as all the other brothers who joined in on his platform. And one of my real sincere missions is to bring our generations together. One of the very effective things that they have done in our communities is that they have divided us against each other. And because people are so entrenched in their own personal philosophies and everything, they can't cast aside their differences to embrace the commonalities. When we can embrace our commonalities and work towards a common goal, the differences are not going to matter as much. But we can't let those differences keep us from working together. So having said all that, I want to give T'Challa a parting glance or an opportunity to make some parting comments, and then we will conclude the broadcast. My brother, the floor is yours.
I just want to say thank you again. Baba Vince, you show us so much love and support. And anytime we've, had a conversation, this has been the energy of reciprocity, of ma'at, as we say. As I learn, we all learn. As we say over here at Kofi Piesie, you know, I'm at a loss for words for being able to express where we are right now today. We definitely are moving forward at a pace that's very rapid. You know, Marcus Garvey united millions of people without social media. And so if he could do that, you know what I'm saying? It's our duty, it's our obligation, like Brother Unk says, for us to reach back and to give life instead of take it. You know, we always appreciate the love and support that anyone, you know, gives us, yourself, those that are tuned in, those that have gotten our merchandise. I want to give 2 special shout outs to our newest member of Kofi Piesie, Brother Chris, and his wife over at Omni African, because it plays into the conversation about rehabilitating the African mind, and it's speaking a certain language that I think we can all really relate to. I tune into all of the family's channels. I may not pop in everybody's chat. I may not always be in our chats when we live, but I do tune into the videos and watch the builds. Definitely a must. Omni African TV, or is it Omni African Collective? Excuse me. Omni African Collective over on YouTube. You got to check Chris and his beautiful wife out. You have to. Chris in China. Also wanted to don't forget Brother Unk, of course, with his line of merchandise. I know we talked about Kofi Piesie, but you know, I got a pair of Jamaica Converse sitting right there that I'm looking at, man, that I definitely got. I got my Amaran Squad jacket hanging up in there, so make sure you go and support Brother Unk and his line of merch as well. And with that said, Jetty Jeff Mboka.
All right. So I just want to thank my brother Ankh, you know, for him coming in and giving us that peek into the minds of young folk, and to give us the reassurance that y'all got this. You know, I can go to bed tonight knowing that I don't have to worry about those coming behind me, you know, taking the baton and continuing to run the race and getting us towards the finish line. And, you know, it's something that I'm kind of aware of, because when I look around, I see young people who are doing great things. And it's young people who aren't getting the spotlight of national media. You know, when I look at the Mboka brand, and I understand that there is a direct connection between the country of Gambia and the United States of America, and I see that intersectionality and that connection, you know, they want us to think that Africans don't want anything to do with us. And they want Africans to think that we don't want to have anything to do with them. And as we have this conversation, I'm just going to let you in on something. A university is being built near Cape Coast, Ghana, and it is called O.A.A.U University of Excellence. And Brother Ankh, they're going to build this university in the shape of an Ankh.
Man,
did you hear what I just said, bro?
I hear you. That's interesting.
Okay.
That's
So,
interesting.
and it's a collaboration between Africans in Africa and Africans in America. Okay.
Yeah,
We're working together to create an intellectual institution to educate Africans all over the world in Pan-Africanism. Brother T'Challa, you talk about Marcus Garvey. You talk about what we can do with social media, and that we didn't have social media back then, and he was organizing in the millions. Okay. So we have every reason to be hopeful about our future, as long as we stay connected, as long as we stay engaged in dialogue and intellectual pursuits and awareness of science, Brother Ankh, because science is about knowing. It ain't about believing.
Nope.
It's about knowing. It's about trying something and proving it time after time after time. And after you have that proof that has been proved, that leaves no room for the doubt that exists within belief.
Yeah, that's African culture, man.
I'm going to make that my final statement. And once again, thank everyone for joining me on this platform. And I look forward to having future discourse with you as you roll out new products and merchandise and ideas and intellect, we will continue to share with our folks on these different platforms. And, you know, I'm learning this just like you are. I'm looking to expand to other live streaming platforms so that we can reach other audiences and build your audiences in the process. So thank you so much, brothers.
Yeah, holler at me, brother. Bring me through sometime.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We have another radio show. And while I'm on this, I got to do what they do on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow me on Facebook at Vince Robinson. I have 2 different pages. We have the 360 Info Network radio program. There's a page for that. And then I'm doing a radio show on 95.9 FM W.O.A.U, which airs on Monday mornings at 11. So we got a lot of different places to plug you all in. And I interview authors all the time on my show. So I can interview you as a group. I can interview you individually, but we can give you an opportunity to tell your stories and promote your product. So again, thank you. This has been a beautiful experience, to be the first experience and to have Professor James Small and the Kofi Piesie research team and the Amin-Ra squad, Brother Ankh. This has exceeded my expectations exponentially. You all have my information. Feel free to reach out to me anytime you have something that you want to promote, and we'll make it happen. And with that, I will say Aluta Continua and Hotep, Hetep, peace to all.